But that leads to something else, which I mentioned briefly, which is, Trae Young goes down, Paolo goes down, and the teams go on winning streaks. I was thinking about that because, and I think Bane is above this level, but maybe he fits in as the best example of this kind of guy.
Max right now is trying to set up the conversation from when LeBron was out and the Lakers were winning with Austin Reaves and just Luka.
There are the distance between an all-star and your kind of just 3-and-D plus guy, right, is much short. It's much less than it used to be. It used to be the all-stars were a lot better than role players. And to me, and I brought up Bridges before, because he's the kind of guy, you don't want him to be the primary scorer on your team. But if you
but he can score.
If the Nets need a guy to do that, he can get you 20 plus a game.
Well, he showed us. See,
and that's why when guys like Trae Young and Banchero go down, and the teams keep winning, and the fans are like, oh, maybe, of course you need those guys, and the fans are like, maybe we don't need those guys. What they're seeing is, I think, the effect of everyone being asked now to do a little more. But nowadays, everyone's more capable of doing a little more than they used to be.
Guys are definitely more capable. But what happens in that case, Max, when a guy like Trae Young goes down,
right,
the style of play changes. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that's pick and roll heavy, and he has 25 points, 15 assists. He gets his assists and he gets his points. But then you're able to play a different style of basketball. Mm-hmm. So it's not a matter of if they're better or not, it's just a different style of play.
But I think the fans appreciate that too, that it feels more like a team game.
Anytime
the ball has energy, everyone's touching it.
Well, here's the other thing. When you have a star guy that is going to take the shot most of the times, teams are actually able to guard you a lot easier because they know the go-to guy.
Sure.
That's why if we did the percentage of games the other night,
that's why James Harden never won a championship. That's why it's the jury is out on Luka, whether or not he's a championship player, right? Because they're too ball dominant and guys are standing around.
I believe the real question on Luka is going to be after he signs that 10-year Supermax, making over $70 million a year, and just teams being aware of that second apron, not wanting to hit it. Will Rob Pelinka land not only on the draft picks, but also on the free agents and just trades to put around Luka? History tells us that this is more than likely not going to happen.
Here's the thing. This is why, if you can change your style of play in the playoffs, you need those guys. Don't even. Right. Those are two of the greatest.
You just don't need them to be doing all that all the time.
Well, what happens is a Tuesday night in Detroit is a lot different than a week and a half of a 7-game series. So now, I know for a fact, coaches don't show you everything. Mike Brown isn't showing you everything, right, just in case they have to see you in the playoffs. I know T. Lue for sure. He didn't show you everything, just in case you have to see him. I used to sit with T. Lue at his house. We'd be up late, and he's going over coverages, film, and I would be sitting there with him because I wanted to know. And sometimes in the game, it would be a timeout, and I would be like, "Yo, T. Lue, what you running?" And he would say, "I'm running this, or I'm running." And I'm just a basketball crazy guy. But I wanted to learn certain things, certain coverages. You had times where teams wouldn't even show you the defense,
sure,
because they're going to see you down the road.
I mean, my algorithm shows me Greg Maddux setting up dudes because he knows he's going to face them again in the playoffs, and then giving up a home run on purpose so he could set the dude up for that's next level kind of chess.
If you play with the top guys in the league, you might get 3 shot attempts. So now you have to be able to, 1, embrace a role, 2, perfect that role, and 3, be willing to play that style of basketball all the time. That don't mean you can't do other things.
You just don't need to.
Going back to Mikal Bridges, the player he was in Phoenix, you didn't see that. And then the player he was in Brooklyn, those are 2 different players. But Mikal Bridges is smart enough to do as he's asked.
Right.
He can do whatever
but
the
you
coach
know what?
asks
Let me
him to
say
do.
something.
But then the other thing is, what if he also lacks IQ and willingness? See, I think that's so underrated because
willingness to accept the role.
Yeah, this is the biggest issue we have, whether you have a guy that plays 20 years and get to a place where it's like, I don't want to. People were saying, oh, this guy needs to fit in, right?
Right.
They were even talking about LJ. He has to fit in. Well, he's only ever fitted in. He's only ever made the right basketball play, did the right basketball things. You have to take into consideration whether you're starting a team from scratch or whether you plug in and playing a guy where you're moving pieces around. If this guy comes in and he's a 25-point scorer,
Mm-hmm.
but for this team, I need him to be a 15-point scorer.
Will he do it with a good spirit about it so that the team? I get it.
This is, and by the way,
Now, it could be a possibility he's talking about Luka, because with this current version of the Lakers, Luka does not have to be a 30-point per game scorer. And some of that energy does have to be utilized on the defensive end.
you don't have to necessarily score 25 to be paid at the level of a 25-point scorer. You know how I know this? I did it. Tristan Thompson.
Right.
You wouldn't have said Tristan Thompson was at the same level of hit the top bigs in the league,
Mm-hmm.
but he got paid because of what he embraced his role
Well,
to
people
be.
would argue he got paid because LeBron James gave him leverage.
But that's bullshit.
Okay, wait, hold
here's
on.
And here's why I call
Go ahead.
here's why I call bullshit on that. That's a cop out, and people want to say that to discredit me first and foremost.
No, I
That's
think
just
they're
called-
giving you credit, actually.
No. You're not giving me credit with that. That's false.
They're saying you're using clients
use
to
anybody.
leverage other.
No, that's false. That's not true. But again, that's fantasy
Yeah,
agent.
that's speculation
right?
and lazy.
But
okay,
the fact of the matter,
correlation.
the fact of the matter was,
There is definitely a leverage play that Rich Paul does not want to acknowledge. It's not a coincidence that the Lakers kind of follow suit of when LeBron James returned to the Cavs by having so many Clutch Sports client on the team.
they were in attacks. They drafted him number 4. He had the ability to. If you ask Tyronn Lue who he wanted on the floor when you needed to win, when you have a big that you can switch 1 through 5, and he may not necessarily stop a guy, but he makes it hard on the guy. That's great. When you have a big that knows how to hold a screen just long enough for that guy to either get around it or for the defense to be in such a frenzy that now when he slips and that guy makes that pocket pass, it's too late for this other guy to move over. So that's
Team
a dunk.
defense.
Yeah, but these are things that don't show up in the stat sheet. Now, also, you can't replace them.
In a way, it almost sounds like Rich Paul is talking about Alex Caruso. That's another player that Rob Pelinka let slip through the ropes.
I used to have this conversation when Chris Bosh was on the Heat, and he was giving you 13 and 8, and Kevin Love was in Minnesota giving you 24 and 12, and everyone was telling me Kevin Love was better than Chris Bosh. I was like, "You sure about that? If you watch, I don't think you'd be so sure." But before, like, not to get too far into the Tristan Thompson of it all.
No. I was just using him as an example. But I'm saying in terms of when you talked about having this many Desmond Bains,
Right.
all these people we're talking about, and I put Mikal Bridges there too. These are all the same people because of how they think.
Now, as it continued on, very similar to part 1 of this, they use a lot of analogies of NFL players and certain circumstances that they are going through to relate it to LeBron James. As right here, they use Jalen Hurts, the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, and they locked in on his ability to manage the game, very similar to LeBron James. And this is very interesting because this season, Luka has struggled with the amount of turnovers that he has.
You're going to have to put your Mr. Bias hat on for this one. Because
What we
because
have?
Jalen Hurts, who was having whatever people want to say about Hurts, they protect him in the offense, whatever. He has a great team around him. If you're telling me you have a game manager who can pick up first downs with his legs and plays out of his mind in the playoffs and in the biggest moments, that's who I want on my team, right? So I'm pro Jalen Hurts, except that he's on the Eagles and I'm a Giants fan. Otherwise, I'm pro Jalen Hurts. He had a horrible game. It's like historically bad. So I need you to put your Mr. Bias hat on.
I don't need the Mr. Bias hat for that. I don't think so.
What do
But go
you,
ahead.
if you have a client, I'm saying, like, if you have a client like Jalen Hurts, what do you tell him after a game like that?
I think, look, players have bad games, right? So if you want to say, if your client has a bad game, it all depends on the character of that client, right? If the guy's a more quiet guy and, to leave him alone after he may not have performed the way he would have liked to, then you probably just give it a day, give it a night, etc. Some guys like to talk about it to get it off their chest after the game. In the case of this situation, you're talking about a guy who holds himself accountable and moves on. So I don't have any.
You don't have to tell him put it in the rear view. He'll do it himself.
No, that guy's the ultimate pro. I think you see his temperament. I think but these guys have a hard job, right? You're expected to go out there and be perfect every night. Some nights are better than others. But when a guy's won an MVP and championship and been to 2 Super Bowls and
Sounds a lot like LeBron James. His game is being questioned, how it's going to fit with the Lakers. He is a game manager, and he does have the experience. A lot of double talk here.
Super Bowl MVP. That's one guy I do not worry about. But to answer your question, it varies. I've been in situations where, a guy is up all night and you're having a conversation. And it also depends on when it is. Regular season game versus it could be in the finals or the Western Conference Finals or a playoff game. You have to have a very short memory in our league or in any professional league, because what people have to realize is the talent of all these guys is off the charts.
Sure.
Everyone's extremely good. The differentiator is mindset. And in most cases, I tell guys coming into the league all the time, this game at this level is 90% mental. It's 90% mental because it's a roller coaster, and you have to ride the roller coaster all the way to the end. And when you ride a roller coaster, it's up, it's down, it's around, it's twists, it's the whole nine. And so I don't think it's a specific thing. I think it's more so you having and knowing the relationship of you and your client. And then the way I handle things is very matter of fact. I had a conversation with a client the other day. We talked for about an hour and a half, and we just talked about focusing on what's in front of us. And it helped them. It really helped them in terms of just from a mental perspective, because these guys have to deal with, first of all, nowadays, everybody has a voice. Mm-hmm. Everybody has an opinion. Everyone has a podcast. Everyone is on TV.
And that right there is brilliant of you and LeBron James to kind of counteract a lot of that noise with this podcast right here. So far, just in the few first months, we've seen the media try to blow up a situation with LeBron James laughing with the players in the Phoenix Suns during a blowout. Also him shooting a free throw when it seemed like the team didn't even know that it was discussed that he would take the free throw. And even things as small as LeBron James saying that he'd rather be with his family for Christmas. Once again, in this last season in LA, there's going to be a lot of arrows coming in LeBron James's direction of why this team, even though they have Luka, is not successful.
There's a lot of takes of people saying things without knowing all of the information, right? And so because of that, if you have a guy that reads into that, or they come home and a family member, there's a lot of things that I think these guys should probably do to get away from it. But
Jalen Hurts,
that's one guy I don't wear.
So you have to stay with me on this one. The Travis Kelce thing is interesting to me when he drops crucial passes, because I understand if a baseball player doesn't have the reflexes anymore, late in his career, he becomes a guess hitter, right? He can't catch up to the fastball. He has to guess. And if the pitcher makes a mistake, he can hit it. And if he doesn't, he's not going to hit it.
Max Kellerman right now is setting up the conversation about LeBron James aging.
If a fighter is older and his reflexes are slowed, he sees the shot coming, he just can't get away from it, okay? But a tight end who's shorthanded, who drops passes in critical situations, to me, it's not like you forget how to catch. That's not the same kind of thing. So I start looking for other reasons why that happens. And I think guys like, you know who I trust at the free throw line in a big moment when I think of like players ever? A guy like Kobe Bryant. I look at a guy like Kobe, and there was nothing in him working against himself in the sense like, I don't deserve this, right? He believed he deserved to hit that
He
shot.
also
And I
relishes that moment.
because he thinks he deserves it, right? How you were telling a story about your dad, my dad's a shrink. So this is like, I think it's psychologically. When Kelsey drops a pass, it feels to me like there's something going on psychologically, like on some level he's not aware of. It's like he doesn't. When I see A.J. Brown, another guy, sure-handed receiver, and his quarterback's having an awful game, and he drops a dime into his hands, and A.J. Brown, and there's been some static and there's been some chirping, drops the pass, to me, that's a psychological thing. That's a thing where, like, I don't know, like in Kelsey's case, maybe he's like, man, we're just not good. We don't even deserve. I'm not saying, Travis, I'm not saying you're having these thoughts consciously. I'm wondering what's going on. And I'm thinking maybe unconsciously that's what's going on. When a guy like A.J. Brown does that, to me, that's symptomatic of something wrong. You know what I mean? That's not just like A.J. Brown, he has good hands. Yeah. How does that happen?
Well, he
in that moment.
I saw he said he had accountability too. I think that's step one. He came out and held himself accountable. I think in situations when you play in a team sport and you have in any team sport, in any locker room, it's a ton of ego, as we all know. You have to have some of that to even get to the level of most of these guys. But then I think there's a world where, I don't know how often this is done, and probably next to never. I mean, we've seen it with duos that played together that just couldn't figure it out, whether it was Steph and Garnett, whether it was Shaq and Kobe, whether it was...
Well, they figured it out eventually.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Took them a minute. It took Phil Jackson, basically.
Whatever the case may be. But then after the fact, you see guys get back together and they would say, man, I wish we would have just... I think...
Youth is wasted on the young. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in these situations, I would love for guys in all sports to really take a step back. Sometimes just take a guy to dinner, go over a guy's house, sit with him. I don't care. There's situations I've been in where it's like, I don't care if you mad at me. You think my players don't get upset at me about certain... I get situations where a player may not text you back for 2 days.
Who?
All of them.
Who can you talk about on the air where you're like, I knew this dude is mad at me?
All my players have gotten mad at me, in times.
Because of stuff you said to them.
Because of stuff I've said, yeah. And in time. But we have a good enough relationship to laugh about it or to talk about it, and we move on. But I say to them, and I would say to other guys out there that I don't even represent, when you're in these situations and you have a good thing going, right? How do you recognize the good in it? Sometimes you have to go.
And you're saying AJ and Hurts don't recognize or...
No. I'm just saying...
Because it looks like that play makes you think something's broken.
I'm saying in any situation. I think I was talking to Darius, and I was saying, Darius Garland, and I was saying, because the Cavs were in kind of like a funk, and I was saying, these are the moments where, you go and, you and Donovan, go have lunch, go and talk, go sit on somebody's couch or get with Evan and get with the guy. Like, it don't have to be a big team thing, but sometimes it's just like, okay, what do we think the issue is? Like what, and it doesn't have to always be like this most serious thing. Sometimes it's just about getting together. The best teams, the camaraderie of it all, guys that want to get to the hotel and, what time we meet in the lobby? We're going to be there at 8:00. The guys who you're at the table and you got 3-4 guys on the team that's fighting for the bill. Mm-hmm. That leads to, I'm having an off night. My man has 47. Let me get him 50. Oh, let me get him 60. Because we like each other. And I think, I'm not in any NFL locker room, so I don't want to speak on the locker room. I'm just speaking on what it takes sometimes to really recognize the good that we have. And even in life, recognizing the good that I do have and not focusing on the things I don't have would do a lot for you.
I think that's really interesting, but I think there's another dynamic at work, which is, and I'm not saying that's the case here, but I'm wondering, like Lakers fans were reacting to you saying that Austin Reaves should come off the bench. I was the one who said Austin Reaves should come off the bench.
Yeah, you said that.
I said that he should be like Ginobili or someone, right?
On a championship contending team, I believe so too. That situation is really going to put another spotlight on Rob Pelinka. Will he let Reaves walk away for free, or this season, is he able to flip him for multiple pieces that they need, especially defensively around the perimeter?
Well, again,
Yeah.
if you're talking having a championship, see, I think people don't understand. And look, you need that, right? You need people just flying off the handle, but the internet is like an Arnold Palmer of intelligence and ignorance. So it don't matter, right?
Yeah.
You need them both.
Good mix.
But what I would say is, if you have a championship team and the best case scenario for your team is for a player at the talent level of an Austin Reaves to come off your bench, I don't think Austin Reaves would have an issue with that.
Facts. The marketing around the NBA puts fans in a very compromising position, because many of the players throughout the years that have been called quote-unquote stars are really just third or fourth options on championship teams. Same thing for a player like CJ McCollum. Even though in the Portland Trailblazers, he was allowed to take so many shots and he put up all-star numbers, but to get to that championship level, CJ is a perfect player to come off the bench, especially with that defense and his efficiency in the playoffs. And on the flip side of the coin, there are stars who realize even though they do have a name, they're much better suited being role players on their team. We've seen Andre Iguodala for the Golden State Warriors. Before then, he was the number one guy with the Philadelphia 76ers. Aaron Gordon, he was the number one guy in Orlando. And now he's sort of like a second to third option out there in Denver. In this current era right now, we're about to witness a few players who've been marketed as stars of their teams eventually end up in situations where they're going to be at least a third option, aka Trae Young, Ja Morant, and LaMelo Ball. And also, I'm going to add on another perfect example, a player like DeMar DeRozan. The whole time, that Toronto Raptors team was really a championship squad. Once they were able to move him out the way and get a true number one in, that team elevated. Also, since leaving the Raptors, he has never really returned to being that number one option. Some of your favorite stars are really getting that type of branding because of opportunity, aka Zach LaVine.
You know what? I want to take I was about to say, would you hose down my hot take? The reason I said, hey, we'll do the fireman thing with you is, if I said if the Rockets are fully healthy, they're going to win the chip this year because of OKC, right, being so dominant. That's a hot take. Would you hose that down?
No, I'm putting lighter fluid on that. And I'll tell you why. Because you have Ime,
Championship coach,
Fred,
championship, like, playmaking ball handler,
Kevin Durant,
one of the greatest players who ever lived,
and you have youth.
at the highest level in Şengün.
And then you have, I'm doubling up on Şengün because he's a matchup problem.
Are we saying Şengün or Şengün?
I'll just say really good player.
All right.
That's what I'll say.
Really good player.
Right?
Really
That guy that's,
really good
the
player.
guy that's really good that's not named Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really good.
Fine. So when you have that, now this is what people don't understand. Obviously, I have partnerships with all teams, and I'm never going to say something on our show that I wouldn't say to them. But also what I'm not going to do is I can't lie to our subscribers. I can't get up here and fake the funk. That's never been me. I have to be authentic, right?
Sure.
So people look at me and say, oh, Rich is an agent. I heard a player or something say, oh, it's weird for Rich to talk like that.
That was, I'll shout him out, Kenyon Martin. And I thought,
it's weird for him to think like that.
No, but he was not being negative. If you listen to what Kenyon Martin said, they have a device on the show, and I'm forgetting if it was, but it was basically like good or bad, right? Hot or not, whatever that is.
No, it was, is he, yeah.
But that's
like,
the
are you
idea.
buying it? Whatever.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Buy or sell, right? And he refused to say, because he said it's neither. It's interesting. That is not negative. And what
I don't think Kenyon would be negative.
I think he's right. Like, one of the reasons I was interested in this is because to me, it is interesting. Like, a super agent giving opinions on
But see,
sports is
okay,
interesting.
so basically what everyone is saying is most agents don't know basketball.
Is that a fact?
That's what the reaction is saying. Because if you're a basketball agent and you don't know basketball, then how the hell could you be what are you doing then? Then you might as well just be a loan officer in that case. Like what?
No, but he's saying they're just.
Yeah, sometimes Kmart looks like he's hating a little bit on Rich Paul and LeBron James. Some of your more bigger agents in the past couple of decades have become prominent GMs. Leon Rose with the Knicks, Bob Myers with the Golden State Warriors.
Banchero goes down, they get hot. Trey Young goes down, they're fine.
Same thing when LeBron went down. The Lakers got hot. But what does it really mean?
Right? Like there have been instances, and there are other examples where LeBron went out and they were okay. There are examples of in the NBA right now, especially, I think, a super important piece going down and the team still.
Well, you're talking about two separate things here. Mahomes and Parsons are critical pieces of winning a championship, obviously, right? Because the Chiefs aren't playing to go to the playoffs. They're playing to win a championship. And when you trade for a guy like Micah Parsons, you only have one thing in mind.
Right. You're looking for the chip. Yep.
He's not talking about making the playoffs. They want to win the Super Bowl. Those other guys, Paolo goes down with a slight injury. You're just talking about a different style of play.
I mean, when he went down, the coach was under fire and the team was
100%.
losing. And then their best player goes down and they start winning.
Well, but again, when you talk about best player and best way to play are two totally separate things. So sometimes when you have the best player, it's up to the best player to recognize, okay, how are we actually playing the game with what we have, and where do I fit in, right, in moments? Because oftentimes, especially in basketball, especially today, like there's no authentic identity to most teams today like it was back in the day.
Or like the Heat have an identity, right?
Like the Heat is a system. They have sports system. They're gonna play.
But they changed their whole identity in terms of the way they play. But they have an identity. We're gonna play fast. We're gonna do it like this.
Well, before all that, you're gonna play right. That's why guys can go to the Heat and really do well. I mean,
once again, Rich Paul's talking about the foundation that the Lakers organization does not have. Even though they landed their big fish in Luka, the foundation which he could build on is still not there.
You take guys that was on the Heat, and then when you take them off the Heat and put them in a different environment, it's sometimes not the same. But going back to the point, when certain guys go out, even like Trey being off the Hawks for a moment, well, that just allowed them to play a different style. Now you got a 4-man and Jalen Johnson that can rebound, push, get into a dribble handoff,
and bring the ball up and all that stuff. Yeah,
but it's less high pick and roll every time down.
And in this modern,
especially when you have Luka, it's always going to be high pick and roll every time down. Once again, these guys set up this podcast in a brilliant way where they could drop a lot of gems throughout many episodes on top of doing all this double speak with football analogies.
In NBA, when you have the high pick and roll and it's 2 guys playing basically and 3 guys standing around, that's not the same as when the ball is moving. But
that doesn't necessarily, it's probably a better way to play the game for wins. But
what is a better way to play the game for wins?
Being able to really have you got to have the ball moving. Rick Carlisle said at the end of last year, he said, and when you look at both of those teams that was in the finals, yes, they had their go-to guy, but any and everybody was comfortable taking the shot within the flow of the offense.
Hey, Rich Paul's in his bag right here because the NBA has definitely evolved since even 5 years ago. Not only the small ball era is ending, but teams now really have no traditional point guard and just 5 players who could really make adjustments and the proper reads generating offense. We've seen the New York Knicks move away from having Jalen Brunson just consistently bring the ball down the court in that Tom Thibodeau offense, and now it's more free-flowing with a lot of quick decision-making from all 5 players on the court. But with Luka, once again, it's just pick and roll going downhill. That might have worked well from 2019 to 2024, but in this current landscape right now, teams have to evolve. No wonder they call the NBA a copycat league, but with all copycats, some of them are actually late to the party. And when you have a young head coach and you're a franchise like the Lakers who are always trying to make their stars happy, so you kind of cater to them a little bit too much, it creates the recipe for a very, very uncomfortable dynamic.
Any and everybody was comfortable taking the shot within the flow of the
because
offense.
they're used to it. Because they're not. It's not just a high pick and roll.
So that changes things.
Like the way this started, so people know, is I get a call from you maybe a year and a half ago.
Yes.
And I was already developing something that, and you were like, hey, are you ready to do this show? I thought you were kidding.
No.
I thought you wanted to rep me or something. I didn't know. So after about 5 minutes, it occurred to me, like I wasn't taking it serious. I thought, and I was like, oh shit, he's serious.
Yes.
And then I thought, like, if Rich wants to do that, if he's willing to put himself out there, let's do it. And then much later on, Simmons calls me and the ringer gets involved. We're like, yes, we like that. But like the thought, what the people from afar think is that this has been orchestrated by like LeBron James.
It's the weirdest thing, but it just goes to show you really how people think. Yes, LeBron gave me an opportunity, and I am overly appreciative of. But if you talk to the man himself, he'll tell you that guy has his own mind. That guy took an opportunity and went and built something, which allows me to be in the position I am today to do this show. The reason why I wanted to do this show is because, again, I don't like to put a limit on myself. I know how far I can go, but there will be some times where I have to really just totally, bluntly tell the truth about a scenario, and maybe one of my clients are involved and maybe they're not. But it was more so about being insightful, right? Being insightful and giving a perspective that I think there's an audience that wants to know. I can't worry about the audience that wants the drama or that only wants you to talk about one team in a perfect way. That's not how it works.
If I'm the Lakers, I'm looking at the roster, I'm seeing Luka Doncic and nothing else. I think if you start a franchise with Luka, you're in very good shape. Now, how are you going to build around that?
Okay.
Now, Max, once again, you would have been in very good shape under the old CBA rules. Luka right now is an 8-year player. So in 2 more seasons, he's going to be eligible for that 10-year Supermax where he's going to get paid well over $70 million a year. And the real question is what kind of team they're going to form around him when the Lakers don't necessarily have the reputation of building a team from the ground up the same way the Spurs or the Heat do. They're not the kind of organization that's known of developing players, and that's where they're really going to close the gap and get Luka up to that next level. Sure, they can get a co-star either through free agency or trade, but the real gems are going to be the players that come from the draft and the players that they develop. So once again, that's a bad assumption. And for those of you that are watching the visual version, I'll put up a chart of exactly what I'm talking about. The Lakers will have to avoid hitting that second apron when Luka will be on that 10-year Supermax contract, which starts, I believe, at $70 million plus per year. So once teams start hitting that second apron, like the Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis right now, the Phoenix Suns when they had Kevin Durant, it's hard for them to even sign free agents. They can't get any mid-level exception guys. And the type of trades that they can make is very limited. They almost have to trade salary for salary. That's why I'm always stating Luka's prime years in LA is not guaranteed. And Laker fans will eventually wake up to this.
Okay, Max.
LeBron's old. Austin Reaves is a little redundant.
Here's the thing, Max. You got me in trouble the last time with these type of conversations because I'm not going to ever get up here and tell a lie.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm not going to do that.
Sure.
There will be times I just decide not to say anything.
It's safer.
This won't be one of those times, though.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Here comes a social media clip.
When you talk about the education of it all, and I'm going to be going to games long after my guy retires and
Rich, what are
seems
you
to
doing
be-
in the nosebleeds?
I won't be in the
courtside?
nosebleeds. I'll be where I normally am if I decide, or I might be there sometimes. But I might like to play. I like to play the suite sometimes, especially at the football
Football
game.
yeah, sweet's nice.
I'd rather play the suite. At a basketball game, I prefer feet on wood.
Sure.
But nevertheless, when you talk about where you want to place somebody, and again, we're going into the fantasy basketball of it all, but I think for the viewers, you have to give them some insight. When you're building a team, right, the one thing you can't do is only focus on names. That's not good. And what I mean by that is, I remember having this conversation with my guy, David Blitzer, who is part of the Blitzer Harris group. Harris Blitzer group that owned the Sixers. We was having a conversation. We were in Shanghai or Beijing somewhere years ago. And I was talking to Josh and David, and I was telling them, like, I don't like a big three. I just don't like it.
In this NBA, you might,
no NBA. I'm going to tell you why.
Time was pretty good.
Yeah, but I like a big two.
Yeah.
And depth.
Yeah.
Now.
That seems to be preferable.
Yes, but.
No, that is the reality today. Once again, that second apron, it's not scaring teams for no reason. You're restricted on how you can improve your team going from year to year. And even if you miss the playoffs or your team is performing worse and worse, like the Phoenix Suns were with Kevin Durant, you're stuck in no man's land.
Here's the other thing. Before you can even get into personnel, I think you have to focus on two things: culture and development. Because when you have culture and development, you're able to build consistency within the organization, right?
Hey, Rich Paul right here talking about the Lakers. This is exactly what they don't have today. We're not talking about the Lakers of the past. We're talking about the Genie Bus Lakers. They haven't had it for a while now. LaMarcus Aldridge in his free agency back in 2014 had alluded to it. He said that the Lakers were all about branding and they never talked about winning in their meeting with him.
Now, you have those things: culture, development, that brings forth consistency of habits, consistency of character, right? Now you start to really have this across the group.
Rich Paul sounds like he's describing Pat Riley's Miami Heat. See, once again, this is where the Lakers are kind of in trouble right here. Rich Paul, LeBron, their whole crew, they've been in Miami and they've seen how Pat Riley ran things down there. They understand that a championship organization looks a certain way, and off rip, as soon as they landed in LA, they knew you guys weren't it.
Consistency of character, right? Now you start to really have this across the group. Now, when you come to evaluating talent, you're evaluating talent from a totally different perspective. It's not just about the name on the back, right? So
it's how it all functions together. Yeah.
Yes. And when you're trying to manage a salary cap, it's so important to draft not only well from a talent perspective, from a character and IQ perspective, right? I watch a lot of games. Simple stuff like this. If I give you the ball, if we're on a fast break and I give up the ball early, if you touch that ball and take a dribble, that defeats the purpose of me giving you the ball early.
Right.
I'm giving it to you early because the defensive guy has to react a certain way and you give it right back.
Gotta move it, yeah.
You just, but when you watch these games, you see these things, it's like, oh, that's just like a, Coach Thornton saying, "I wishes we used to do this all the time." But this is the NBA. But still, all these players get this criticism, right? But nevertheless, going back to your point about where to go.
This leads to a JJ Redick conversation real quick.
But going to your point about where to go, I'm not looking at certain cities or anything like that. That's not what I'm looking at. And obviously, if you got those two guys, yes. But again, you're talking about playing fantasy basketball. And when people don't know the rules, people just think anything. People say, oh, well, if LeBron wasn't making $53 million, no, that's not true. That's far from true, number one. You probably could have been, get a, I don't know, mid-level, whatever the case may be, because it's not like
When you can
obviously
grandfather in a contract, it's different than acquiring a guy.
Now letting a contract expire and letting other contracts expire, and you have X amount of cap space, that's a timing thing.
Sure.
If you have to line it all the way up for that to happen, and then that player has to want to be there because their contract may be longer. So it's and then you can't give a necessary
Well, I mean,
you can't say what you want to do.
This started because the conversation started because you said, where would Giannis go? And the two biggest markets, markets could both use him in New York and LA.
But that's again, you focus on big markets.
I'm not saying that's where Giannis should go. I'm just saying the fact of the matter is the two biggest markets.
Right. So here's what happens.
Could be title contenders
when you're in big markets and you focus on names, that's the beginning of the end.
Once again, Rich Paul, more shots at Rob Pelinka. They landed their big fish in Luka, but what else have they done? How can you start a season knowing that you don't have good enough perimeter defenders and you got a guy like Luka?
Look at the small markets. Look at OKC and look at San Antonio.
Sure.
They don't have that ability to rest on that. So what do? They build a culture and development.
Rich Paul going in on the Lakers right now. There's just so many things happening at once. It's kind of hard to keep up with, but the fact that Hollywood no longer has the monopoly to create mega stars like they used to, and the rise of social media, it's also having an impact on the Lakers because now they're actually forced into developing talent within. How many free agents have they struck out with in the past 10 years? There's Paul George. He chose to renew his contract in OKC. There was Melo around 2015, 2014. Kawhi Leonard, LaMarcus Aldridge. Even more recently, Klay Thompson choosing the Dallas Mavericks over the Lakers. What is the pivot for Jeannie Buss when you no longer have the, I would say the advantage of getting stars? Because her motto is, stars want to come here. Sure, that's the case in maybe the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s, but we're in different times right now, and the Lakers don't have a history or even the infrastructure around to develop players. Once again, Jeannie Buss's siblings were in charge of the scouting for years. The timing should come by no surprise that she recently let go of both of them because we're in the NBA today where your scouting is important. You got to land on gems in the late first round and second round and just even undrafted. Pretty much the money for any player, no matter where you go in the draft, is unlimited. We just seen way too many examples of it. Right here, Rich Paul further elaborates, and he uses the San Antonio Spurs as a prime example of an organization that doesn't necessarily rely on names.
And again,
they have multiple playmakers. You mentioned it. They have Wemby. Go ahead and answer that.
Yep. Yeah, they have Wemby. They have Fox, Vassell, Castle, Harper. But again, going to names, okay? We know who the big name guys are for both of those teams. That's not who's actually putting them over the top. When you ask a guy like Keldon Johnson in the beginning of the year to play a certain role, and he buys into that and decides that I'm going to play that role.
That's based on culture and drafting high IQ players
and developing them. And then when you have a guy like Harrison Barnes, right, who's a true professional.
Getting the right veteran mix in. Yep.
This is what I'm saying. So now most teams draft a guy, number 2, Dylan Harper, he has to start.
Yeah.
He's coming off the bench.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying. So culture, development. Same thing with OKC. They have an embarrassment of riches. They got more picks than anybody. Their first round guys a lot of them were coming off the bench, right? And so I think it's a matchup we would love to see in the playoffs, obviously. And yes, I think that's something that's building there. But do I think it automatically means that, they're just going to run through OKC? No, and I don't think San Antonio believes that. I don't get over panicked about the regular season because there's a lot that comes with it.
You've said it. The NBA is getting ready for the playoffs.
Last year, Indiana was not that great.
No.
Halliburton didn't even make the All-Star team.
Yeah, but they had an identity all year.
But in
they were good.
No, in the beginning, it was a little struggle. and then they came on strong at the end and made it to the final.
It's not a coincidence Rich Paul pointed out the Pacers because their development really showed going into last year's playoffs. The amount of guys like Ben Shepherd, Obi Toppin, Nembhard, Naismith, Benedict Mathurin, and even TJ McConnell. It goes to show you, just like Rich Paul said, they had a good eye for veterans, mix them up with certain youth players, and also knowing who fits, making that trade for Pascal Siakam, one of the most underrated successful trades that have been pulled off in the past couple of seasons. The Pacers front office definitely had a vision when building that team. Now, Rich Paul also further elaborated on Luka's role as a leader of this team. How has he embraced it? He gives some great insight to it.
Guys that come in and don't understand how to embrace a role, they're going to have a short career.
By the way, I'll extend that. A guy like Luka also has to play a role because even though the role he casts is as a star, right? He's cast as the star, the leading man, but there's still things that he has not embraced yet that come along with that role that if he were to do that, the Lakers would be much better off, including, as Reggie Miller pointed out last night, guys running by, move your feet on defense, like move a foot, do something, show, you gotta, when LeBron has been great with the Lakers, it's when like AD challenged him to play defense and all of a sudden the Lakers looked completely different. Even though LeBron's an old man, he was playing defense. When that guy will lead by example, and that's something so what I'm saying is no matter what role you have, including as the star, you have to fully embrace what comes with that. And it's like, it's not just the Iguodala's or Aaron Gordon's giving up being the primary scorer on a team or something like that. It's also the star giving up the idea that they can just play their way, right? Like they have to make some sacrifices.
Yeah, normally it's not the superstar guy that's going to be the all-defensive guy.
Doesn't have to be all defense.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
How about some defense?
No, I'm just saying. And even in LeBron's case,
he's none defense, not all defense.
People get on him about the defense today.
Yeah,
but we've seen it. We've seen
LeBron?
the guy. Yeah, we've seen it.
He's 41 years old.
I understand. If you have to depend on the 41-year-old, we're in trouble anyway.
Come on,
but
Luka's 26.
I'm saying prior to that, anytime you have a guy like that who can switch 1 through 5, you saw in the finals, guarding Duncan to Kawhi to Tony Parker to Ginobili.
Dude, you don't have to tell me.
Yeah.
In, what was it, 12 or 13, when LeBron went crazy defensively, that was the best defensive player I've ever seen in my life in basketball is Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman was the best defensive player I've ever seen. He could legit guard 1 through 5, and it was a problem for that player. He had the best defensive and rebounding instincts I've ever seen.
That was a conversation yesterday.
What's that?
I sent you the clip.
Oh, Draymond?
Yeah. But not to go off on that.
No.
Not to go
Draymond
off on that,
offensively could do more, and Draymond changed the game.
That was a good, I thought that was a good topic.
No question. We could do it if you want. But defensively, my point is the closest thing I've ever seen to Dennis Rodman defensively, it's going to sound funny, was LeBron James that year. It was LeBron James when he could switch onto Derrick Rose, and like there wasn't anything he couldn't do.
But the point I'm saying is, I don't want to be too harsh on Luka because I do think Luka will play defense, and I also think those are conversations to be had. But again, during the regular season, guys, if we really broke down everybody's film in terms of the star players that you're asking to score 30 every night, very few of them going to score 30 every night and play defense. This is what makes Ant so really, because
the greatest of all time, do though, Rich. Like every time there's a.
Come on, Rich, don't avoid telling the truth now. SGA is also on that list. A guy who's averaging 30 a game and playing defense. We've seen it no further than in Game 4 in the finals. OKC had their backs against the wall. SGA had nothing going in that third quarter. So he stepped up defensively while J-Dub took over. And then in the fourth quarter, he finally woke up. So in the past couple seasons, we've seen the rise of these type of two-way guards. Guys like Cade Cunningham also plays defense, while at the same time offensively, he does play in a very similar style as Luka.
White player who's over 6'6" and he can play an overall game, he gets compared to Larry Bird, right? Larry Bird could play defense. I mean, for that era.
Yes, but you didn't see every game. I'm talking about.
Yes, you did. You might not see him be on ball shutting a guy down.
This is what I'm saying.
But he played smart defense every game.
But what I'm saying is, when you are in a playoff setting, right? Now, defense just takes effort and energy. I get all that. But there is something to be said that if you're asking me to score 35 a night on one end, I'm not saying just be a matador. I'm not saying that.
Damn, Rich, isn't Luka's nickname the Matador? So if you're not asking him to live up to his nickname, the Matador, what the hell do you expect him to be?
And just be a matador. I'm not saying that. But I am saying we have to look at everyone's film because it's easy to have revisionist history. And I know a lot of people get on these shows and they talk about certain things. Now, I'm never going to go against a Hall of Famer. They know what they see, etc. All I'm saying is that's just a conversation, right? And then you have to push that.
If Luka, instead of 35 a night, scored 28 a night, 27 a night, at least play heads up defense, team defense.
And I think he will.
Austin Reaves is not a good defender, but Austin Reaves is a willing team defender.
I think he will.
Steph Curry's not a good defender, but he's a willing team defender. At least he was when he was younger, right? Luka, that's disgusting what I saw last night.
Listen,
let's be honest.
I think let's just call it an off night then if you want to say that.
And Jimmy Butler would bring to the Lakers, not only would they get a little younger there, I mean, Jimmy's 36, but he's not 41. But he would bring the ruckus to the Lakers that they need. Like, someone needs to cause a problem with Luka. Luka can't just be, if the Lakers gave him the keys to the franchise, he can't just do whatever he wants. If he dribbles the ball to death and doesn't get his teammates involved and plays hero ball and it's James Harden 2.0 and doesn't move his feet on defense, doesn't even make an effort.
What's gotten into you? Did you wake? What?
What
did Luka do to you?
I was disgusted last night. I was disgusted.
Come on, Rich, you already knew his opinions about Luka before you started this show. Come on, man.
I was disgusted.
It feels like it. What did Luka do? How did you wake up on the wrong side of the bed?
Luka
and be on this Luka
Doncic,
kick?
because Luka should be the best player in the NBA. He should be, but he's not. He's not.
Hey, Mad Max is actually cooking right here. Luka has not yet returned to the form that he was at before he had entered the finals back in 2024. You would think with him joining the Lakers, you would instantly see him take the reins of that franchise next to a 41-year-old LeBron James. The only thing that we're able to tell as spectators looking from the outside in is that the Lakers organization internally is giving him the keys to the franchise. But on the court, it's looking a little 50-50.
He was precocious. Like, look where he was when he was 22. He should be farther along. And I know he's a great offensive player. So was James Harden. We see that style doesn't win championships. And you got to have at least pretend to care about defense, right?
You hear Rich Paul humming? Rich Paul does not want to get caught up in Max's comments. He's sort of throwing a distraction while Max kind of says the truth right here. Luka's elevation in his first 5 years has kind of plateaued now.
Jimmy Butler would confront Luka in the right way in that locker room.
I'm going to need you to be a little more positive in the new year. Okay?
This is positive.
Here's what I would say to you.
I think it would positively affect everybody.
But here's what I'm saying. Let's take both of those teams out of it.
Okay.
And let's just talk about what it actually takes.
Okay.
It don't take one player for anything. It don't matter. It don't take one player. Based upon what you have from a roster perspective, you have to evaluate that roster and you have to build that both on and off the floor.
Rich.
Talent and character.
Everything.
Hey, there goes Rich going back to that talent and character. Builds consistency in an organization. That's what he stated before. And once again, that's more stabs at Rob Pelinka and the Lakers organization. But we'll see. This is one hell of a conundrum that JJ Redick finds himself in because he does not have the power to wheel in LeBron or Luka. And the Lakers internally, they're not even set up to put the proper pieces around Luka. It took the Mavericks quite a while to figure out that formula. And they lucked out after making that trade for Gafford and PJ Washington. But hey, it is what it is. These Cold War games, it seems like LeBron James and Rich Paul, along with their financial backers, are down with it. They have no intention to get caught up in the media's algorithms. But it is what it is. We'll see how this plays out. But you guys definitely hit up the link in the description below. We got plenty of stories like this. Hit up the NBA True Story playlist and also the NBA Hardwood Nuances, where it's a little bit of the game film mixed in with the storytelling. And until next time, you fellas stay safe. Peace.